My name is Sarah Law, and this is the history of the advancement of technology. In this presentation, we will be talking about the history of technology, current digital preservation practices, and future digital preservation practices. Now, looking at early technology through computers, calculators, we'll be looking at two men, Charles Babbage and Alan Turing. And then with air conditioning, we will be looking at the 1920s and movie theaters. Now, early technology with calculators and computers came about because people wanted faster calculations. Computers came about due to that need. One such man who decided to invent the so-called computer, or a faster calculator in this case, was Charles Babbage. He was an inventor who continually tried to create a machine that would calculate things quickly. And his machines ended up having very similar components to today's modern computers. And he, in essence, became the father of the computer. The next man we'll be speaking about in regard to computers is Alan Turing. And he actually was a code breaker at Bletchley Park during the 1940s, and due to his mathematic calculations and working with the machines that they worked with, he ended up making and building the framework for modern computing, and therefore became known as the father of modern computing. Looking at air conditioning, it was originally invented in 1902, not due to people being hot, but to keep pages from sticking together at a publishing house. And it wasn't until 20 years later, in the 1920s, that the air conditioner started being used more, and it was used in movie theaters. Now, these two technologies both are used in archives today. And the air conditioning is one that wasn't used actually in archives until around the 1940s. It wasn't until that time that there were books being published and there were different pamphlets touting the usefulness and the need for air conditioning, mainly because it preserved documents. It was for paper preservation. Now, looking at technology used in archives again, computers are technologies that we use now in archives, but computers weren't actually used at a wider use until the 1950s, and only by businesses. They decided with businesses that they would use these computers for things such as payroll and anything that really created data sets. Essentially, computers aren't what they are now. Data sets were the only things computers could really create then. Now, looking at everyday technology, we're moving past the air conditioner. It's being used in archives by the point we'll be talking about. But with computers, they didn't actually come into use in archives as much. It wasn't until the personal use of the computer that we see more archival work. Again, data sets, it was used to save things, to save information. And people didn't have personal computers until the 1980s. And if you look at the diagram, you can see just how fast these computers ended up changing from 1981 until now. With these computers came the internet. And the internet was not created until the 1990s, but it's still something that is used every day. It is something we could not live without all over the world. Now, looking further at the internet, yes, it was created in the 1990s, but it wasn't the high speed thing we know today. It originally was dial up. And this dial-up went through a phone system, analog, into a modem, which that modem went into the digital realm, into a computer. And it was very, very slow. It wasn't just like a snap of the fingers. It was don't touch the phone. People are trying to use the internet. There was no freedom like we have today. Now, in 2020, that is a completely different story. Now we have high-speed internet and Wi-Fi, and we can connect wherever we are due to towers. Now, with the internet comes digital practices. Then, the digital practices in the 90s were EAD, or encoded archival description, and that was the first foray archives had into creating a digital medium for their archives. EAD essentially put things such as online finding aids onto the internet. You had to create a XML format, a digital format in order to put things onto the internet. And now with how the internet is in 2020, there are many, many databases such as ArchiveSpace, PastPerfect, Omeka, ContentDM, and other databases that are able to have information stored, but not necessarily in an EAD format. There's MARC records and all sorts of other things as well. And these basically are digital repositories. These are where you can put information that archivists want to have out in the public. The types of digitization are scanning. And so essentially, you are taking physical documents and putting them into a digital medium. So you're taking a letter from Valley Forge, you're digitizing it via a scanner, and you're putting it into a computer and then into a digital repository. Web formats are digital formats that have never had a physical being. So you're talking about JPEG, Word documents, things of that nature that have never had a physical form, and those can get uploaded as well into virtual format. Now, looking at the future of digitization, it is endless. And the National Archives actually released a digital preservation framework press release this year in 2020 that discusses electronic documents and how they can be fully electronic. And their focus is mainly on creating less corruption in digitization, as well as making sure it can house and hold the information. So they are trying very hard to get things in a more digital realm. If you want to learn more, the website is listed as well. Overall, the future of digitization is endless. You could have completely digital formats, better access, as well as automatic updates. There are so many things you can do, and overall, no one knows what will happen in the future. But as far as archiving goes, it's a very, very interesting world in the future. And if you want to know more also on the air conditioner, Minogue's book is where you'd look for that. Thank you.